I'm not somebody that's ever been a fan of rocky, uneven relationships. I think a lot of drama is just one of those things that makes the human being worse. It really does. You should seek to have relationships in your life that have an even keel. It's good for you. It's good for the other person. And nobody in the world is more aptly aware of just how awful an uneven, rocky relationship truly is than fans of DC on film, than fans of DC Studios, than fans of all the properties that Warner Brothers puts out, because between, the high highs of Christian Bale as Batman and certainly Michael Keaton before that, to the divisive nature of the Snyderverse and everything that Zack Snyder had envisioned for his world of DC Comics on film, to what James Gunn has done with Superman, which was, again, divisive in an entirely different direction. I admit that part of me was a fan of both and is a fan of all of it. I certainly tend to take more to DC characters than I do to Marvel characters, but it's time for us to, get on an even keel. We need to settle down. It's time to right this ship and get everything on track so that we can all settle down together, and that just doesn't seem to be the case. There's this story from Cosmic Book News. Again, this is from inside sources at the at the site. People who they have on the inside at DC. Take that with a grain of salt. Rumors. They have a decent track record for all that entails, right? But what they're saying is that James Gunn is out at DC if Warner Brothers sells. I did a video yesterday, I believe by the time this comes out, it'll be 2 days ago, about Warner Brothers and David Zaslav rejecting a first offer from David Ellison over at Skydance Paramount, who just finished their own merger and are looking to expand beyond that. But now what they're saying is that if this sale goes through, and certainly if all it was a first offer, and David Zaslav, being the cunning businessman that he is waiting to hear more. Certainly we've talked about a little bit about the fact that they're splitting the companies. They're splitting Warner Brothers and Discovery into their own separate brands for their own lucrative financial reasons to try and pare down the debt. But what they're saying will happen is that if the sale does go through, James Gunn would be out as the head of DC Studios. So let's go through this article. It says, with Superman reportedly bombing financially and Peacemaker Season 2 flopping with fans, I reached out to my insiders about the state of DCU under James Gunn. The short of it is that James Gunn will be out as the head of DCU and with the Warner Brothers Discovery sale. I'm told that if David Ellison of Skydance Paramount buys Warner Brothers Discovery, that Mike DeLuca will be in charge of DC and do a completely new start. So right now, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi are like the co-heads of Warner Brothers Studios. Mike DeLuca has a big track record in Hollywood. I think he was the president of New Line Cinema. He was the head of production at DreamWorks for a time, chairman of MGM, all major brands that you've heard of and watched movies from. And what they're saying is that James Gunn would be out. It says, Gunn recently said that he does whatever he wants with DC. That sounded odd to me, as if you are building a new universe you would want to be successful with the fans. That's not happening, as both Creature Commandos and Peacemaker failed to chart on Nielsen. They don't have a big audience, and Gunn's claims that Peacemaker Season 2 was meant to be a sequel to his Superman movie was pure BS. Superman also failed to resonate with international fans. Its box office also came in under Zack Snyder's Man of Steel by a large margin. Yes, if you adjust for inflation, just given how much cheaper tickets were back in 2013, they did sell more tickets. And really the long and the short of it is my favorite movie this year was F1. I believe I mentioned it in that last video as well. And Superman having to be in the same air as F1, which was this Apple TV movie that I really, really enjoyed, but wasn't meant to be necessarily the summer blockbuster that Top Gun Maverick was, because it was made by the same director. I just don't feel like Superman, with an IP as robust as Superman has, with decades upon decades of characterization between all the different movie iterations, between Smallville, animated movies, and all that stuff. Theoretically, given how much Hollywood loves IP and loves what the understanding of what IP does for them, the brand recognition, the fact that people can come in off the street and know exactly what they're looking at, the fact that it's up there only with the likes of F1 and doesn't even come close to, say, what Minecraft made, what Jurassic World made with Scarlett Johansson, a complete reboot of that franchise without Chris Pratt. if it's not even up there in that rarefied air, then what are we even doing right now? And they're saying that Gunn's approach to the DCU has been all about divisive messaging. It's splitting the fan base. Yes, so I liked Superman a lot. I gave it a very, very positive review. But then when you get into what they're doing with Peacemaker right now, and it's the return of talking about Nazis and the return of, like, you use Earth X because you want to talk about Nazis, not because you care about telling a story from that part of the DC universe. And it's very much what I've always kind of taken from James Gunn's TV storytelling. I did enjoy Peacemaker season 1, but maybe it's because I got married. Maybe I'm just actually finally growing up, but like the Reddit style humor of what he makes these days, it doesn't hit with me the same way, at least not enough to keep watching. And I fall back on this idea that if this sale does go through, and it's crazy because it just feels like Warner Brothers is just passed around. It's always being sold. It's always moving about. And there's no steady flow to the business, and nobody can feel as if they pick up a story there. Why not just abandon that entirely? Get away from anything to do with universe storytelling, because certainly you can't even in the real universe guarantee that the company is going to be under proper leadership for a long enough period of time to actually put together a coherent, competently created universe without, in the case of the Snyderverse, studio interference from people who didn't have any patience for what his vision was, or at least in this point now with James Gunn, behind the scenes problems, given the fact that Warner Brothers as a brand seems to always be in some form of turmoil. They're reactionary. And the way that I used to say that the problem was that when Marvel was running things properly in phases 1 through 3, you'd get that timeline of when each movie would come out. And barring some changes, and it did happen, there was things that got moved and pushed. You had a coherent story that went from film to film to film, and you felt like you had the ground beneath your feet within the world. Whereas DC, there was none of that. It was reactionary in the extreme. They'd put out a trailer, people wouldn't like it. Oh crap, we better change it. Let's recut the next trailer. Suddenly, Suicide Squad from David Ayer looks vastly different from the Comic-Con trailer that came out the year prior. They had no actual strength and trust in their own product to let the vision unfold, and they have none of that same strength behind the scenes, as there seems to be a constant need for corporate restructuring. Says you'll notice that Gunn has pivoted from his planned Gods and Monsters storyline into what he calls the Superman family saga, aka the Superman family is all about James Gunn's only a select number of movies. Oh, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that, pulling this one back here. What he calls his Superman family saga. The Superman family is all Gunn. The Gods and Monsters storyline likely ditched because Gunn knows that he only gets a select amount of movies out before the sale. It's also been told that the reason why the DCU projects have been stalling is because of Gunn's interference. The filmmakers want their own vision and not Gunn's. I'm told that the most visionary directors in Hollywood are staying away from not only DC but Marvel and Star Wars because life is too short and everyone is looking for original properties. Yeah, I mean, look at like the best example of whenever they want to make another Black Panther movie, if I'm Ryan Coogler, and I've got the power that Ryan Coogler has now in Hollywood, given his track record, I'm going to go to studios like Warner Brothers and make a movie like Sinners, which, whatever you think of the film, is visionary for him and is the story he wants to tell. The directors that actually, how many directors did Star Wars go through because Kathleen Kennedy didn't want to work with somebody who wanted their own vision for a film? Even when Sam Raimi made Spider-Man, even when Sam Raimi made Doctor Strange, the movie had its own look in a way that a lot of the other ones didn't in there, but not a lot of directors are going to be given that same amount of leeway to create a movie within their own vision. Most of them now are stuck in this studio formula because they have to adhere to this stupid rule that everything has to be a shared universe because everybody's blinded by IP and wanting everything to connect somehow, when what we really understand as people that love movies is that one really, really, really well-told story is worth its weight in gold, and not everything has to be a connected universe. And I would prefer if it went back that way, if I'm being completely honest. I'm told that if Warner Brothers gets sold, that whoever buys it wants a completely new start. Well, it's been reported that Skydance is eyeing to purchase Warner Brothers Discovery. I'm told Universal Comcast is still in the mix. I know they've been eyeing Warner Brothers for years. Yeah, I don't even know. Like Universal Studios, maybe it's because I love the Fast and Furious movies. I love the blockbuster slop. But I always make the joke. I say, whenever I go into a theater, when I see the only studio header that I do not get an immediate sense of unwavering dread from is the Universal Studios logo. It's the only one that doesn't make me wonder whether and to an extent, honestly, Paramount, but that's mostly because I'm a big fan of a lot of the old Tom Cruise movies, and I'm a big, I did a list of like my top 5 favorite Tom Cruise movies recently, and it was fairly controversial because I put the first Jack Reacher on there, even though it's not one of his best movies, because I just love the action slop that has come out of Paramount. And honestly, of all the streaming services, for the price, Paramount Plus is one of the best streaming services you can go to, given the back catalog of old movies and stuff like that. But Paramount and Paramount and Universal are both studios that I a lot of times I like a lot of the stuff that comes out of those studios, but I don't want consolidation anyways. I made this point the other day. I don't want to see you get less choices. I don't want to see Warner Brothers get folded into Paramount Plus, because I want to know that at any given time, if one service isn't providing something that I want, that I can go to another who's going to be providing the things that I do. I got rid of HBO Max. Sorry, it was just Max at the time. Now it's back to being HBO Max for like the 37th time. I got rid of it because it just wasn't providing enough of what I actually wanted to watch. Usually I'd go for a period of time and I would watch the DC animated movies, which is where I feel that DC actually thrives. And after I would watch those for a time being, I'd watch a couple of movies here and there, maybe rewatch True Detective season 1, and then I'd get rid of it. And I would go back, like Paramount. If you're a fan of Taylor Sheridan's work, you get Paramount because he's consistently releasing his series on time. He's getting you a season, if not every year, at least every year and a half, every 2 years. It feels like he's on budget, on time, releasing stuff all the time. Tulsa King, Landman, Yellowstone before it fell off the rails. Did you see Lawman Bass Reeves? Did you see Special Ops Linus? All of these shows that if that's your bag, you've got something there to watch. You can go there, you can watch all sorts of old movies on there. I just saw the other day that Peacock raised their price. I was like the absolute gall of these people. I would put them under, the likes of a Paramount Plus. But look, David Ellison, obviously with the merger of Skydance, is very aggressively looking to move forward in business. He's talked about how consolidation is the future of the entertainment industry. I disagree with that point. I can't say, honestly, that it's a good thing or a bad thing for James Gunn to be out, because I've only seen, the likes of a couple of things from his DC universe. But if it is true that what he wants is his own vision rather than embracing the vision of other filmmakers, then there's going to be at least a section of the audience who haven't taken to his work who are going to pull away and aren't going to have any interest in that. It makes sense to want a coherent universe if that's what you're going for, and having one creative person in charge of that vision. But what happens when that vision stops resonating with a good part of the fan base? You end up losing at the box office. You end up losing on the streaming charts. And if Superman is any indication, even with me loving the movie, liking the movie quite a bit, if the box office is any indication that there is still more work to be done. I like the concept around what they were talking about with Supergirl, the idea of her being kind of a mess in that idea. I'm willing to go with that, but I also understand that people that don't like the storytelling in Peacemaker Season 2 and roll their eyes at the way that politics are getting interjected into their storytelling, I don't blame them for cutting bait. I don't blame them for wanting to get out there. And I wouldn't blame I wouldn't blame Paramount if they brought somebody in and wanted to start from scratch. I would just tell them, for the first 5 years, take all those heroes that everybody loves and make individual movies with unique storytelling from unique directors and writers. Don't worry about connecting these universes. If you really want to, get your studio reputation up with a sale like that, I think that is the way to go. But I don't want that to happen anyways. I want Warner Brothers to stand on its own. I want them to make movies that everybody wants to see. Certainly this year they did well in the non-superhero front. First studio to make $4 billion this year, and they did it on the back of films that weren't necessarily IP like Superman. So look, make of that what you will. Do you think that these rumors are true, that these insiders are true? I love Cosmic News. They always have great articles, but let me know what you think down below, guys. If you don't know what the podcast is, Pop Culture Crisis is live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is noon Pacific. If you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on X at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. Stay tuned for more videos and check out the podcast. See you there, guys. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.